Nobody's listening, right? Hi, Andy.
Hey.
I'm so excited to talk to you for an hour as though no one's listening.
Aw.
Let's keep it real today. As we pretty much...
That's going to be the biggest regret you've ever made.
But is anyone listening? Curious.
Yeah, shout out to Tommy who left this review on Apple. I'm ferociously listening.
Whoa.
I found this podcast a few months ago. I won't say which popular podcast host sent me over here.
Neither will we. God, don't we love her?
Since then, I've been listening every week. On top of that, I've been plowing through the back catalog with the manic, self-destructive fervor of a stuffed bear mainlining his favorite hot honey. Nobody's Listening is a fun, calming listen for anyone, such as myself, interested in getting a laugh out of the what is it?
Minutia.
God, that's embarrassing. I'm not going to take the time to edit it out. The minutia of day-to-day life. Please keep it coming.
Hey, will you read just a few sentences of that as Bearsy?
Yeah. On top of that, I've been plowing through the back catalog with the manic, self-destructive fervor of a stuffed bear, mainlining his favorite hot honey. I love that stuff. Ooh.
Oh, man, I love Bearsy. You know, last few times Bearsy's come out to visit us has been at, like, inopportune times in our lives. And for anyone, I just wanted to say, if you haven't listened back, if you're joining us new, Bearsy is a stuffed bear that you, Andy, animate for the kids. This was born of COVID. Teddy the other day said one of the best things that came out of COVID was Bearsy. But
he's a talking stuffed bear that we've mentioned a couple times.
That's joined our family and loves hot honey. Also wanted to say, I'm pretty sure almost everyone knows this, but Saint Monica, who has that glorious sound attached to her, is our friend Monica Padman of Armchair Expert. Because someone was like, who is Saint Monica and what is her connection?
Yeah.
The one person, I think, who probably doesn't know that. Anyway, we love her, and she's been giving us some very nice shout-outs and sending people our way. So Bearsy lately has been coming up at, like, times when I'm exhausted.
Just for you, every time he comes out, you do not seem to like him anymore. You hurt his feelings.
How did I hurt his feelings?
You just dismiss him every time.
Yeah, well, it's like he picks the times where I'm so tired, over it, just want to retreat to my bed and carry off into the evening. And then suddenly Bearsy is there. Drives me nuts.
Would you ever talk to him like for like 15 minutes on tape, just like a special, just you and
Yes,
Bear?
I
You
would.
would?
Yeah.
I think it'd be hard for you.
Part of it is like, you know, I don't know if he still is, but he's in the past been kind of romantically obsessed with me, it seems.
I think it's way more nuanced. Number one, he's a bear, so I don't think he completely understands those feelings.
Like, oh, Angel Elizabeth.
Yeah, but he has a crush. I would say he has a crush on you.
Okay.
But it's kind of an innocent crush.
Well, sure.
He's not,
jerking off to me or something.
I didn't want to say it. I really didn't want to say it, and I wish you didn't say it. And I hope our children never hear this episode.
You know what, Bearsy? I will definitely have a conversation with him at some point, and I'll be nicer to him. I have been very dismissive.
He can take it. He doesn't quite understand your dismissiveness either. He is just a sweet, sweet bear.
He is a sweet bear. So today in Los Angeles, it's going to reach maybe 105.
Get hot.
I don't mean to get all political, but at the very least, let's vote for cooler times.
I want to drill, baby, drill. That's like
What's that?
What?
What is that?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, that's like one of Trump's like catchphrases that like at every rally gets the crowd bananas.
Oh my God, for oil. Okay. Yeah, at the very least, I mean, there's so many reasons to obviously vote for the Democratic ticket, but at the very least, do you not like being in 105-degree weather everywhere you go? Like, that's going to be I hate to think of what it's going to be like in 15 years. We should move up north. Way
Well, like,
north.
where? It gets hot up north.
Top of Canada.
Oh, you mean
Fort
like
McMurray,
getting like
Alberta.
Arctic-y.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then everything's just melting up there. It's just going to be like a water park. Is
Well,
that what
great.
you want?
For summer, I'd rather have a water park than. We have a situation here where
damn it.
our pipe burst.
Can we talk about this for a quick second?
Absolutely.
Like the financials of it? Of how?
Happy
'cause
to talk about the
I
financials.
have a theory.
Okay, so the other morning I'm heading out to Pilates. By the way, we should add that to the cost because that's $30 I'll never see again.
Oh, yeah.
And I notice coming up out of our driveway concrete
Yeah.
into the yard,
Yeah.
a little, truly just a trickle of water.
Spitting, a little spit.
A little spit, and it was just starting to pool. I mean, I must have walked by it right when it was starting.
It's insane when you walk by it.
Crazy. And also, I truly was like, oh, that's weird, and kept going. And then I was like, oh, that is really weird. And I came back to it. I could have very easily just gone about my Pilates class, which, I don't know how much it would have changed things, but it could have changed things a bit. Anyway, luckily, I thought that a pipe had burst under our driveway.
Yeah.
But it turns out what happened after the Department of Water and Power had to come turn off our main line, and it's in the pipe that's from our main line up to the house.
Yeah.
Luckily, it's
Which any plumber, by the way, could have turned that off.
Okay.
We were just... I don't even know why we had the instinct to call it,
needed
which was
to turn
totally
the-
fine.
Oh, I guess I didn't know that.
Yeah, we're fine, but
and
it doesn't
actually,
matter.
it's good that we now know how to do it.
Yeah.
Everyone, if you don't know, I mean, people should know. These are things I don't know.
Oh,
I
but
don't
here's-
know water. I don't know gas. I don't know. I should know how to do all that shit.
No, but in many cases, people like you and me can't turn
Access
off
it.
the main without a special tool.
Oh.
Because it's really hard sometimes. Ours just happens to be new that it can be done with a pair of pliers.
Not to brag.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's this copper pipe.
No, it's that we had galvanized that busted.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's part of the problem.
So anyway, long story short, it wasn't even in a joint. It was the pipe had completely split apart.
Yeah.
And so we had a plumber come out. He did a temporary just slow the flow fix because in the meantime our entire front yard kind of flooded. And we're turning off water and on water, blah blah blah. Okay, you want to get into the financials?
Yeah, and so he's like, I'll give you an estimate. And he leaves, goes on his merry way. So around 8 p.m. that night, I get the estimate. And it just seems absurd to me. Now, we've had some recent stuff at the cabin, so I have an
We don't
idea
want
of
to
pricing.
devalue plumbers. Their work is
Not
incredibly skillful.
Yeah, not at all. And had we maybe not done some of this more recent work at our cabin, I might have just
Not batted an eyelash.
not batted an eye. And this will
Well,
come
we
back
would-
to my theory on their estimate.
We would have batted an eye for sure because, as I mention every week, I'm not working, and so
Yeah.
this estimate was what, 5,600.
Yeah, yes, it was.
So that's a pretty penny.
A lot of money.
We're not in a 5,600 pop up
Right.
price tag situation.
So I'm doing the math on how much is all this stuff going to cost. I know what they need because he had mentioned what he needs. And all that stuff's pretty common stuff, right? We're moving from galvanized to copper, all this stuff. So I'm looking it all up. Listen, copper pipe's not cheap, right?
Sure.
But I'm looking at all the costs of everything and thinking at the most, this is $1,000 in parts. But that's being very generous. So I'm thinking that's a lot of money for labor, but labor is important. Paying labor is important. But it just seemed crazy. So I told the guy, hey, this is so much money. We might have to make an insurance claim. I'm going to have to get another estimate. And he's so cool about it.
Love it.
Doesn't care. And this is a guy I call a lot. He fixed some things maybe a month ago for us. Always been very reasonable. So I'm starting to have this sinking feeling oh, this really might be what it costs. But I'm doing research and the math in my head, and I think it should be half this.
Yeah.
Well, we get some more estimates. And at the end of the day, we wound up almost a third less than that original quote.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
When I then reached out to him, being like, "Hey, bud, we got to move on to one of these other people." It wasn't all good. I totally understand. I didn't even throw any prices around with him. I just said, "Hey, we've gotten a couple other estimates. They're considerably less."
Do you think he just doesn't like us and didn't
No.
want to spend time with us?
I think sometimes you just got to take a huge swing. Okay? And I think he knew he had taken a huge swing. And also, I think he didn't want to do the job for less. And I also think, even more important, he didn't want to have to be saying, "Oh, you know what? I'll do it for half of my original quote," which I think there's a world
Right.
where on other jobs, similar jobs, he's done it at that quote. But he took a big swing and it didn't pan out. And I think that's why he was so cool, because he doesn't want to lose us as a customer.
Yes. God, I'm
That's
so
my
glad that you handled that because I never think to get second opinions. I mean, I'm just like, well, that is what it is. Like, why would someone take a big swing knowing I could easily, but it's not easy. You had to line up a few
No,
other
it's not
plumbers.
easy at all.
and-
I've known this plumber for a long time. We have a rapport.
Anyway, long story short, you crushed it. It's funny. I think the total now was like 2,200 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, we don't love getting a pop-up 2,200, but
No,
given what it
so much different
was, I
yeah.
was like, amazing. I'm
yeah.
thrilled. But in the meantime, we have a swamp in our front yard because it's taking a few days to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I have to go and bail muddy water out of the mud puddle
Yeah.
every couple hours, which is just I wonder if the neighbors wonder, what the fuck is she doing? Because I'm like bailing water with a bucket out every few hours. And anyway, so that's with the heat, and now there are all these bugs around the swamp. I'm starting to feel like
You
we're
don't have
in
the
the
half of it.
bayou.
Every night I go off to turn off the main like city water line in theirs. I take off the, what do you call it, manhole cover or whatever it is, and it is just fucking creepy, crawly roaches,
Ew.
water bugs. It's so gnarly, and I hate it because I can't wash my hands afterwards. It's the worst fucking thing for me. It drives me nuts. And I got my little Petzl headlamp out there. I wonder if people are like, this is the other thing. It's kind of scary that like there could be like people going around just shutting people's water off at the main water.
Well, I thought about that last night because I thought I'm working on a true crime thing, and the power was shut off.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah.
That's another
And
easy
I
thing
find that
to do.
so disturbing, like a fuse box being accessible.
Easy.
And I think, I made the mistake a few months ago or maybe a month ago of watching the I'll Be Gone in the Dark, the Golden State Killer docuseries
Yeah.
that Patton Oswalt produced, and it's based on the work of his wife, his late wife, Michelle
Yeah.
McNamara. I like that has stayed with me. It happened to me this morning. I had this weird, or in the middle of the night. Remember when you were like, "What are you doing?" And I was checking on the kids. I had this weird wake up where my eyes couldn't focus. Like I felt my eyes jumping around, and I like could not.
Yeah.
But I thought I was hearing stuff with the kids, like
Yeah.
little like nothings.
Yeah.
But I had the thought like, oh my God, if I don't get up right now and go make sure that they're there and safe, like
Yeah.
what a regret I would have.
Yeah.
And
But you're just too tired.
no, I got up and I got up, but I was too tired. But I thought about the Golden State Killer and how like he got his rocks off by like scouting out the houses. He likely spent time in each of the houses with like getting the lay of the land and learning where like floorboards creak and don't creak because he was so silent.
Wow, that's so creepy.
He would in the middle of like his torture situations and raping would stop and go have a meal, eat their food, eat their bundt cake, and then go back.
Why are you laughing?
because
Why are you laughing?
because Your face.
Because my face shows disgust like a normal person's face should, and yours is smiling, laughing.
No.
It makes no fucking sense.
I don't know.
Insane.
I wasn't laughing until
You saw someone looking like with complete disgust, which is the normal reaction someone hearing this story should feel.
Can I be honest with you?
Sure.
Okay. You didn't cover it up. Maybe that's why our lighting is kind of different.
Oh, fuck. This is going to be fucked.
There's this portrait of me as a child behind your head. And you're...
I forgot to cover it up. Have I been forgetting a lot lately?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Can you see it in the video shot? Maybe we'll have to post it so people know what we're talking about, but that is sort of funny if you're looking at me
I'm
and
looking
behind
at
you
you
is a
with
child
disgust,
of you.
and I just noticed, like, I'm, like, smiling looking at you. Anyway.
Hey, real quick, are you lying right now? Fucking liar. What a psychopath save. You just blamed it on the painting? What is wrong with you? You're fucking insane. You're fucking insane. You're the fucking psychopath. This is you might do I need help? Do you need help?
Wait, Andy, just so you know, it's not, I wasn't like looking for an excuse.
Yeah, you were. Or one presented itself to you?
It did. As we were talking about it, I was like, this is kind of funny because I'm like gazing down upon you.
Okay.
Hang on. I wish I had a tissue. There goes my makeup.
Okay, can we push forward? Can we push ahead?
Yeah. Well, so many people have sent me this Times article on Ballerina Farms.
I haven't read it yet.
I thought you did read it.
I've been meaning to. Can we put a pin in this till next week?
You told me you read it.
I didn't say it. I asked you, have you read it yet? And you're like, yes. And I think I said, I need to read it. It's on my to-do list.
Okay. So
I want to read it before we get into it.
Absolutely. We'll discuss it another time.
So wait, I wanted to say one other thing about, you're having bad dreams. Oh, I'm literally having bad dreams. It didn't happen last night, but the night before, I kept waking up feeling like I had bugs all over me because of the creepy crawly bugs.
Oh, yeah.
That's horrible.
It is horrible.
Mm-hmm. Should we?
It's so horrible for you, especially, I think. Also want to thank this week's sponsor, which is our Patreon, patreon.com/nobody's listening right. You can go support us there for as little as $3 to $5 a month, and you get a whole bonus episode every month, and this month's going to be really fun.
Can we talk about Women's Health Corner and the Olympics?
Absolutely.
So
I want to talk all about the Olympics.
I think we're all having this feeling. I think maybe I have this feeling just because I'm looking out for women all the time. Every time the Olympics comes around, I'm always wondering about their period and competing in the Olympics.
What?
You know, their menstruation cycle. To be honest, it always crosses my mind at least once during the Olympics.
It does?
Yeah, because anyways, so I wanted to find out.
No, because why?
A couple reasons why. One, we're watching gymnastics and it's like, do they ever have to get their period during this?
Interesting.
Okay.
I think a lot of gymnasts at that level don't have their periods.
Put a pin in that. We can talk about that. I did like the quickest of searches about this. There was an official
Once again, your search history.
2024 article on the Olympics 24 site, like Olympics.com. There's a whole article about periods. And the French Olympics 2024 is the first Olympics in history where there's complete gender parity, where there's an equal amount of female
athletes
and male, which is really cool. And because of this, they're trying to shine a light a little bit more on the period thing. And it's really kind of interesting. And it is something that really has been ignored and not talked about. There's been so much stigma behind it for so many years. One of the first times it really came to the forefront in 2016. Wait, I think it's
Is this a runner?
I think it was a Chinese swimmer.
Oh.
She got fourth, and I think she was like the favorite. And right after the race, very candidly said, I got my period last night. I'm not making an excuse, but things were a lot harder, and it went like crazy viral in 2016, and people were like praising her because this is one of the first times
I
an
bet they were
athlete
praising
at that
her.
level.
Yeah, and I bet also
has-
they were like, oh, whining.
Yeah, I'm sure that. Yeah, but it's one of those things. It's a double-edged sword because it's like women haven't been able to talk about it because of like fearing that sort of backlash. But also, women get their periods. Why
You
can't we
know,
talk about it?
I know. I love it. Let's talk about it all the time. I do think there's so much stigma. I mean, even when I got my period, there was like shame around it, which is so. When I think back to like that time, okay, so it was in the 90s, of how as girls and women we were kind of taught to be. Now, I also had a very charmed life and lots of support. I had like best case scenario, I think, of life. But also these mixed messages of like I was sexualized very young. All of us were. Like now when we watch movies that you and I watched as children, there's stuff in it that we would not expose our kids to.
Yeah.
Sexualized, the message very clearly being keep your body small. And puberty was almost like this, now you're dirty, first of all, because you look like a sexual being, which is so fucked up. You're dirty because, you know, you are getting your monthly cycle, which back then like meant, I don't know, this biblical version of like, now you can procreate. Like, it's so weird. But also, the ideal was to stay small and like childlike almost, especially back then when it was like the Kate Moss era where it was just like, you should be straight hips, no,
Yeah.
like, try not to look womanly in any way. Don't have, like, booty was not wanted. Boobs were not wanted. But I feel like a lot of me and a lot of my friends, there was a level of serious shame involved in getting your period.
Yeah.
Especially for the girls who got them very early.
Right.
Anyway, but there was like a runner who ran and bled because
remember
that's how,
that. Yeah.
and that was like a huge
Yeah,
thing.
I
And it's
remember
like,
that.
why are we, but to your point with the Olympics, I have thought of that this Olympics. And also, even recently, I was in a really bad mood, and I was like, am I in a bad mood because of my hormones? Am I in a bad mood because I should be in a bad mood because this thing that's annoying me happened? And or, you know, I'm like, I don't even know what to chalk it up to.
Yeah.
And it's so not fair. We talked about this last week, how you have this steady hormone situation.
Yeah.
And ours are all over the fucking place. First of all, just monthly, but then also in perimenopause and all of that this time in our lives. So for Olympians, yeah, if it's the day before your period or the day after, you are not going to perform at your very, very, very best.
So what's interesting is, well, two things. One, they've done research. There's been a lot of change with white garments in general in sports. And this is in recent years, right? So tennis, was it Wimbledon or something, like finally is allowing female tennis players, they don't have to wear whites. Like I think at Wimbledon you used to have to wear white.
Oh, yeah, tennis whites.
There's been research that female soccer players, the ones with non-white uniforms perform better. So they're like
Wow.
white uniforms are getting
Interesting.
and then there's just been, but it's just such a new conversation. It's pretty wild. And there's like, so this article on the Olympic site, there's a sentiment of like women athletes saying like, you know, I've been performing high level sports for years and years and years. No one has ever asked me about this. And some of them also saying like, they don't talk to each other about it. It's so stigmatized.
Wow. Yeah.
But anyways, so
Very
there's
interesting.
Always is an official menstruation partner of the Olympics this
Oh,
year.
I love that.
And I don't know, but it's just interesting. But it does, I don't know what getting a period's like, but I know it would not be fun in any of those events.
No. And it is another, I think, yeah, it's another way that I feel like women have been underserved in sports and stuff. I feel like it's another thing that they're doing in the French Olympics is they're giving all breastfeeding mothers who are competing access to a breastfeeding
Yeah, they have the first
room,
nursery
and
ever
there's a
in the
nursery
Olympic.
there.
Yep.
It's so
Yeah, totally.
this is what we need, and this is what we need everywhere. I feel like even when, as recently as when our kids were babies, I remember thinking like that. I mean, it was so novel for like a writer's room to have a nursery or a place for breastfeeding moms to go pump.
Yeah.
And I almost was like, well, just go do it in your car like I do it or whatever.
Yeah.
But it is such an extra burden in your life to be pumping and figuring out where the refrigeration is going to be, how long these bags are lasting, all of this shit.
Yeah.
And to have your baby just there and you can go feed them takes such a strain
Yeah.
so that that person can perform as an employee. And it's like this providing these services raises, like, you're going to get a better employee out of it. So it's not even just the right thing to do. It's also like beneficial to the work.
Do you think at maybe part of the core of some sexism and everything, do you think it could have been born from the fact that men have to shame women for all of this stuff because truly women can do the one thing that men can never do, which is to have life grow inside of them? Do you think there's any weirdness there?
I think it's more linked to like the biological need for men to like conquer and fuck, honestly.
It's both all. Yeah. It's probably much more that.
I also do think, and I'm not saying this to be offensive, I truly think this because, listen, you do so much. I think we're equal partners as much as can be, but there, like, you took care of all the plumbing stuff. And not to say our roles are divided by like gender stereotypes always, but I manage our lives, like, and I think that's true for probably 95% of like hetero normative couples where the woman, whether or not she works full time, it defaults to her. For example, like meals, I've been fully carrying most of it, like 95%.
Yeah.
But you do the breakfast and lunches, that's like designated to you.
Which is typically the mom thing.
Typically the mom
stereotypes.
thing. But I'm still the one who's like sitting down with you and going, okay, this is the night you need to cover. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm still managing it. I'm overseeing all of it. I'm overseeing all of doctor's appointments, school things, signing up for sports, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm the manager, and it's a mental load that women carry. And I think maybe it's because of the biology of having babies, and we're, I think, more well equipped to like multitask and be efficient and good at certain things. Efficiency, this is another stereotype, but I feel like writers' rooms, specifically comedy writers' rooms, have always been like a bunch of dudes hanging out with their bros.
Yeah.
Fucking around, like showing up at 10, fucking around till 1, ordering lunch, and then like kind of starting to work after lunch, and then going till like 11 p.m. But having a blast because you're hanging out with your friends and making each other laugh.
Yeah.
Women, I think, got in there and were like, okay, let's show up at 9 and actually work from 9 to 5:30.
Yeah.
No fucking around because we have shit to do. I don't know. My point
I think
being,
you're speaking, I think there are probably some generalizations to be made from what you're saying, but you're also speaking from a very personal, specific
this is not,
experience,
this
too.
is, no.
I think it would
Andy,
be unfair.
Hang on, don't.
Wait, let me rebut it to what you're saying, and then you can rebut. I think it would be unfair to say that 95% of women handle that stuff. I think there are a lot of, like, if we're talking just like heteronormative couples, that it's less than that there's some men that have to do everything and have partners that aren't bringing anything to the table.
Andy, this is like statistically, we can look this up. And
Okay, I'm fine with that.
I don't
But
know.
I'm just saying
It's a
95 seems like a huge number.
It's a common, and by the way, it doesn't look good that you're like taking charge of this conversation. And like 95, I think honestly, it's also in many, many situations, women are expected to work full-time jobs and do all of the stuff at home.
Okay.
Like, so their situation is way more intense even than how mine feels to me.
I'm not arguing against that.
What's your argument? Like,
I'm just saying you throwing out a number like 95% of women are taking care of like everything. I don't know. I think that's not accurate, sort of. And
Why?
then you were backing it up with like a writer's room example is such a niche example, which I agree with you on. But I just also don't know how we got here because we were talking about like sexism in general.
I mean, look, we can look at this, and maybe I will to come back to this.
Yeah.
You are talking about why like the crux of sexism. And my point in saying all of this is I think that maybe men are intimidated by like how much women can accomplish, how good we are at managing things.
That point wasn't getting across at all.
Well, I didn't get to it.
Okay.
And honestly, Andy, there's so many articles about this. Like, it's called The Mental Load.
No, I'm familiar with that whole thing, the mental load.
Are you?
Yeah, completely. I've heard all about that, and I agree with it. And I would even say in our relationship, you definitely take on so much more than me in that regard. But I think
So why is your choice to hone in on my 95% and say that can't be right?
Because that seems like a very absurd and sort of unfair number to throw out there. That seems like a huge generalization to make.
Okay, what do you think the breakdown is if there's research?
I don't 70-30.
Okay. I'm trying to find a quick answer, but
Yeah. Well, this was interesting. Maybe we'll come back to it.
It is interesting. I just want to point out, though, something for you to think about, because you're the one who brought up all of this. Oh, it's so interesting. No one's talking about periods, and now they are, and it's fixed.
No, I'm not saying it's fixed at all.
I know.
That's not fair either.
Okay.
Yeah.
But take your defenses down for a second.
Okay.
Although they're about to go back up.
Okay, that's fine.
You might want to look at why, of everything I'm saying, your instinct is to poke a hole and point out how my percentage is unfair.
But
instead of like validating and also saying that's just your experience. This is like well talked about, a huge thing that's covered. We're coming from like women, what was it? They could only apply, I'm going to get this year wrong, but it was something shocking. Like women couldn't even apply for a credit card on their own without their husband in 1988 or something.
Yeah.
Like we are still very much and we're now going backwards. Our rights are getting taken away in like 22 states now. Women don't have access to full health care.
Right.
And lives are on the line. And there is such a push for women to the trad wife thing. I mean, I can't wait to talk about it after you read that article.
Yeah.
But for women to go back to this trad wife thing, it's like slipping through our fingers as we know it. And we haven't even, like, we are still in the zone where women are expected to work and manage the home lives. And it is a big enough thing that I feel very comfortable throwing out a very high percentage. 95 maybe is not exactly right, but for you to hear all of that and then come in and the hole you're poking is saying it's not that bad.
Yeah, I understand the point you're making, but I don't think that's fair to say, like, I can't have that thought or rebuttal. I think it's relevant in this conversation, too, and I think this is an interesting conversation we're having, but also we should be able to respond, and just because I'm a man doesn't mean I have to change my response. I think I'm being very open about all this stuff. I think our relationship, there is, I think we do a pretty great job of navigating a lot of these stereotype things. And I think I, help her out around the house
Help
too.
out. I mean,
Do you know what I mean? Like,
even you saying help out around the house, like the default is almost always the woman. It really is. And it's no, yes, you're entitled to your reaction, but
Yeah.
I'm saying you might want to look at why your reaction to me saying all of this, which is not pulled out of my butt, it's not even if it were just my experience.
yeah.
I don't know. Like, for your reaction to be trying to, like, make it so it's not that bad. I mean, maybe it's born of you don't want this to be the reality for women, and me painting this picture with this white brush makes it seem like that. I don't know what it is, but instead of like, you do know about mental load, like,
Yeah, I do. I
so
totally
speak
know
to
about
that.
it.
Like, what do you know about it? How does it affect women? How is it unfair to women? Instead of it just
the
being
cliche, or a good example of mental load would be, this would be like a great exaggerated thing. The husband coming home from work. He's been working all day. Maybe the mom's a stay-at-home mom. He walks in the door and he's upset because the dinner's not ready, right? Well, what he doesn't fucking know is the mental load that this woman has taken on the entire day, all the things that came up that she fixed that he's not aware of, from little things, not little things, but like, no, little things to, there was a towel on the ground in the bathroom that she picked up that he left on the ground, to figuring out what the kids are going to eat for lunch for the whole week, to figuring out, do I got to get the dry clean today or tomorrow? Just like all of this stuff piled up. And this asshole's mad because one thing's not done, where in her mind's like, you have no idea what I'm carrying and checking off all day long. I have a big list that's so much bigger than you'll ever comprehend, and you're pissed off about this one thing.
yes. So that's accurate, but
That's like an
also
exaggerate-
you're choosing this one example that sounds very much like a 1950s
But I'm trying
housewife,
to show the
which
exaggerated version of it.
I know, but even more exaggerated to me, that's not true. I mean, stay-at-home moms, that's work that, I mean, that's kind of, it's the same thing in many ways, but also having to be able to shift from, I mean, there are many, 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 many marriages where that is expected, and the wife is also going off to work, which,
Yeah.
I mean, so she's also bringing, because it used to be like, well, I make the money and she handles the blah, blah, blah. But
Totally.
it's like they're both bringing in income outside of the house and is expected to cover all of that stuff. I mean, and a lot of it is invisible. So like you're saying, I mean, I do feel like I carry a lot of the invisible mental load of our relationship.
Yeah, but we do have an open relationship where you can tell me that stuff, and maybe there's ways where I'm not helping, or, maybe it's frustrating because maybe you do tell me this stuff and I don't step up over and over. That's another conversation to have, but
No.
I feel like in many times over our relationship, we do have these conversations, and I do my best to
Yes,
help out.
but it's the default is me, and I'm having to manage
Sure.
by telling you even,
Sure,
which is
sure.
fine. It's how it, like, I'm not complaining about our situation, and I do tell you sometimes when I'm like hitting a
Yeah.
overload. Anyway, sorry. That bothered me, that the thing that you're coming in of that conversation and how nuanced it is and how big of a thing it is for women
Yeah.
was to immediately jump on my percentage is unfair to men.
I wasn't, but see, I'm not even coming from it of like it's unfair to men. That wasn't my thought. I mean, maybe there is a part like I would feel bad for.
I think you did say that's an unfair. I mean, just
No,
if we rewind the tape.
I do think it is unfair, but that's not that was not what was motivating me to say it, if that makes sense. It's more like that's it isn't fair because it's such a crazy like number to put to it. Like if you're going to be talking about this issue, I think that just seemed like a crazy number and an unfair number to ascribe to that. Does that but we're getting in the weeds on like percentages here. So like, but if you do want to do research and we can go and get in school me next week, I'm happy to get back into this. I'm not being I don't think I'm being as defensive as you think I am about it. Like,
well, don't, I'm saying like, hang on, actually, I can't find it this fast. I'll look into it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you're right, but my feeling is when you come in and say it's not 95%, it's actually 70 or whatever you think the number is like dismissing the whole argument and making it, I mean, that's how it felt when you came in. Was like, it's not that big of a problem.
But that's not what I did say. That's how you're interpreting what I said. You basically said this is how it is across the board.
90, I mean,
which basically is saying for everything, which I'm saying I don't think that's it true or fair.
To men.
Or to, I mean, yeah. Yeah, to men. Or I guess then we get in the weeds also of there's all sorts of different types of couples and whatnot too. But what we're talking about right now, would be so men.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad periods are getting talked about more in the Olympics.
Are you all about to get your period or something?
Oh my God.
Come on, that was...
It's really funny. It is really funny. Do you know that Heat? I am on our like Patreon episode going to talk about going to this crime lab this month.
Oh, right.
But just one quote from that is, "Heat makes people murdery." And you were talking about there's been a lot of crime lately.
Oh, I wanted to mention this earlier.
Okay.
I'm so glad you said this. There's been a lot of crime, and there's been actually a lot of very scary crime. Did you hear about all the scary stuff happening in Silver Lake?
No.
Our old stomping grounds, really scary burglaries, women getting assaulted at
Oh
like
my God.
unexpected hours that you would be like, whoa, at like that time in the morning, like a lot of really scary stuff happening. But I read the police said to keep all your external lights on, which I've looked into this in the past, and there's like different research on whether like you keep your porch light on or not. And I think we might want to start keeping it on.
We should.
But I didn't know if the police in this, because the police were responding to some very specific things happening in Silver Lake.
Oh, like, is there like a prowler? Is there like a person who's going around doing stuff?
A person or a group of people doing these burglaries.
Oh, God.
But so I don't know if it was like, oh, during this time of craziness, keep your exterior lights on, or if it's suggesting all the time. But I feel like over the years, we've flip-flopped of like, do we keep the porch light on? Do we turn it off? And I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to do more research to see like, what is the safest thing? Because these are crazy times.
We also have the thing where, you know, we have our cameras and like the lights turn on if there's movement. Yeah. Which I really like. Yeah, although it does wake you up when it's like a raccoon or something.
Hey, better a raccoon than...
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's a terror of mine, is like looking outside and just seeing a human being, a man, I'm going to say, standing there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I watched a crime happen. We had a yard sale yesterday. Yeah. Which I feel like we did the Olympics of yard sales.
It was fucking pretty sick.
I feel so accomplished. We sold so much stuff that has just accumulated. You know, this happens. But even in a small house that's relatively organized, and that's, sorry to say, another mental load thing of mine that takes so much mental effort for me.
Do you think that's a gender specific one? Whereas I know couples where the husband's way more organized than the wife.
Yeah,
that's just a you thing, that's a lack of a deficiency for me.
I think it's generally gendered, but yes, I don't think that it's as clear cut. But yeah, I mean, No, I think it is pretty gendered because it's like kids bring home their artwork from school. What are we going to do with it? I went to the trouble of like making these organizational bins for their artwork. Well, then they bring home these like huge, not everything fits, or like, what do I do with their sculptures and stuff like that? Having to find a place, especially in a small house, for every little thing that comes in the doors of this home is a huge stress. And I don't know that I've ever seen you find a new place for something coming in the doors of the house unless it's in your studio. Like, I honestly don't. And I like to keep the decks clear. So, if something's been sitting there for a week, it's finding a spot.
Yeah.
So all of, the games, the toys, the books, the blah, 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 clothes, costumes, we got rid of everything.
Yeah.
Now, I sold a bunch of jewelry, like not my nice, I don't really have that much really nice stuff, but my kind of fun jewelry that I just don't wear anymore. And I did watch a woman walk away with jewelry without paying the, couple bucks. And it was such a surreal thing to be like, I'm literally watching you do this. And she came and paid for a ring and then took other stuff.
What's the other stuff she took?
A couple necklaces.
She paid for the ring and took a couple necklaces. Why not pay for the necklaces and take the ring, which is like an easier thing to steal and takes up less space? It's less noticeable if a ring goes missing than necklaces.
No, a necklace crumples down into a tiny little nothing.
Oh, you had some bigger necklaces out there.
Oh, no.
That's
I'm talking
what
about like little
mind.
tiny necklaces.
Oh.
So, but it was so wild because I was just watching the whole thing going down and I'm just like going along with it. I'm not going to say like, I'm not going to get into it. Also, it was so hot. I just wanted things to... By the end, we were like giving stuff away anyway, so it didn't matter ultimately, but
Whoa.
it was an interesting thing to watch.
I mean, how exciting for her to feel the rush.
I know. And it's kind of safe. Like,
Oh,
it's obviously very safe.
I think a lot of people would say something.
I wonder if you think?
Yeah.
I wonder if what's that called when like Target like accounts for theft in their
it's
spreadsheets?
Not slippage. What is it? It's like slippage. Oh, this is going to drive me nuts.
Do you
is
want me
it
to
slippage?
look it up? I don't think so. I think of that as being like a tampon slipping out. Target
Friction.
cost of theft.
Slippage. Shrinkage.
Shrink. You got it.
It's shrinkage.
So shrinkage. Do you think I think our shrinkage is probably pretty good if you look at like.
Yeah, I do think I saw someone else steal something, but I don't know what it was. And then how they were walking away, they looked very guilty and started moving quickly.
It's
but
a great place to do that because it's like.
It's a good way to like learn how to steal stuff. It's like stomping grounds.
Yes,
Stealing
it's
101.
Yes, training. But we cleaned up and we literally, it's such a win-win because, it's a win-win-win-win. First of all, it's really fun getting to know our neighbors. Like we met a bunch of local people and
cool tattoo artists.
People stopping by and that was really fun. And catching up with people. Mm-hmm. We're sitting out there from, 7 a.m. till 3 p.m. Also, there's something very nostalgic to me, and I'm feeling very nostalgic. I think it's a combination of the Olympics, and this is summer. It's like the final weeks of summer before school starts, and things feel very loosey-goosey.
Yeah.
Doing this yard sale, which was so much work getting ready for it. I mean, it was a couple full days with you and I both in it. Setting it up, sitting out there in our chairs. There was a lemonade stand happening in our yard. It was such a delight. And then we got rid of everything. Anything we didn't, you packed up in your car and took to Goodwill immediately. Yeah, so nostalgia for this kind of summer days feeling. And we made some money.
Yeah.
Not enough to buy a new copper pipe, but we made some money, which was nice.
I kind of don't think we made that much money, which is a bummer.
What?
We made $500.
$600.
We did?
We actually made $700 if you count the lemonade money, but that's
the kids.
The kids, yeah.
Okay. So we made $600.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yes.
But I don't know how good that is with them. I think we priced really low, which was smart because we moved stuff. People were
Basically,
so stoked.
Everything, I'd say 60% of things were $1.
Yeah.
And then everything else was $2 or $3, unless it was like something really nice or
we had
new
some,
in a
like, tech
box
stuff.
or
Some weird fans, microphones, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of effort for $600. But the bonus we get is we get $600. But the even bigger bonus, all that shit is gone.
That's the whole point of it
Right.
to me. And the money is like the
Cherry on top.
Also, you're pretty good about eBaying stuff and things like that, especially if it's like tech gear, obviously. I've had so many things that I'm like, I'll eBay it.
Yeah.
And I just don't have it's just not something that's going to get done. It just
Yeah.
languishes forever. So there were things that I, yes, could have sold for more money, but it's just not, I know the effort
You
isn't
gotta
worth
get rid
it.
of it.
And we could have priced things higher. Like in the beginning, this guy who clearly goes to lots of yard
Yeah.
sales came in. He quickly picked up 2 bikes for $5 each and was like, you guys have the most amazing prices. And I was like, oh no. Have we? But the truth is, by the end of it, I just wanted all of that to be gone.
Yeah.
And mission accomplished.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, there is something really nice to me about seeing, like, a lot of this was meaningful stuff from our kids' younger years. It was really nice seeing that it's going, like, who it's going to.
People were excited, to see people find their new treasure from our old treasure.
Yes.
Yeah, to see us stoked people be like, oh my God, that was very fun.
And it's getting upcycled, which is nice.
Better for the environment,
Environment.
like you're saying.
So many wins.
I do, of the people that are early birds, there are like different vibes of early birds.
Yes.
And some I liked way more than others.
Agreed.
You know what I mean?
It was so interesting. I mean, my favorite one was that guy who bought the bikes. He was a grandpa. He's talking about his grandkids. Like, he showed up ready to rumble.
Yeah.
He bought some planters. He bought, I really just liked his vibe.
His vibe, yeah.
But then there were some interesting people. There are people who got there and are like inspecting everything and then looking up on their phone how much it's worth. Like,
I'm not mad at that.
No,
Yeah.
I get it. They're clearly going to resell it and only want to buy the things that it's worth their while, which I also like. I'm like,
Yeah.
better you than me, because I'm never
Yeah.
putting it up on eBay or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Then there are people who come in and there were a few people who haggled a lot.
We would
At
have
the
had
top?
We would have had so much more haggling if I think our prices were so good. We minimized a lot of haggling.
But I'm so
Haggling's
bad
the name
at
of
that.
the game, though.
I know, but
Yeah.
because we're not yard sale, we do this maybe once every couple of years.
Yeah.
I'm so bad at haggling and I'm so uncomfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I did kind of resent, I'm like, you're haggling me over $1 for this thing that is clearly, like, you could go sell this on eBay for $30.
Yeah.
And then haggling with me over everything and then pulling up in your Mercedes, like, really nice car.
That happened?
Yeah. I was like, oh.
Was it a woman? Uh-huh. That tracks. That definitely tracks.
Andy,
Wow.
you're going to... This episode we should title Andy Hates Women.
Well, what's so funny is last week you tried to send me so Elizabeth will write the like summary to remember what we talked about, but I'm the one that like edits the podcast, but then I'm uploading it and I put the description in and you wrote Andy hates older women and I changed it to Andy loves in all caps older women.
Oh, that's really funny.
Yeah, so fascinating to see these different types. I love the people that they just roll up and just ask you if they have what they're looking for.
Yes.
It's so great. Like, people will be like, you got any video games? And it's like, no, and then they move on. But I'm like, oh, that's pro. I like your style.
Well, there was that guy. I literally thought I might be getting kind of like robbed right now. I had the thought of like, are the house doors locked right now? Because he was so sweet, but clearly a professional. And he had a sidekick who like didn't make eye contact and was kind of, but he wanted like loose gold.
Oh, yeah. That guy was a trip.
I
liked him.
I did too. He was so charming, and he's
Yeah.
telling me like, "I'll buy it all. You don't have anything else? Can you go check?" He kept telling me to go back inside and check.
But you did.
It started though to feel a little bit like there's some other play happening. Now, it's not really fair to say this because it seems as if it was all on the up and up, and he buys precious metals to like melt them down and sell them or whatever. But he was like so persistent and so charming
Yeah.
and so likable.
Well, he's so persistent. What's crazy, though, is he did get you to go into the house and find more stuff, which is so awesome, though, that he knows that there's sometimes more to the sale
Well,
than
I
meets
think-
the eye.
yeah.
He can convince people.
And we had nice stuff. I will say it's so fascinating. The things I thought would sell immediately didn't. I mean, and there's some nice things that are from like many, many years ago, and some possibly even, I don't think from my parents, but like when we first got married, maybe a wedding gift or something
Sure.
that at the time I was like, ooh, I want this like very fancy crystal vase.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I never use this thing. It's not my style at all. And that's another thing is like,
We
I don't like to keep things just to keep things.
we did sell one thing, apparently, that you later told me was my grandfather's. You're like, and we got rid of that thing of your grandfather's. And I said, that was my grandfather's? And
I
you're like,
thought it was.
well,
Wasn't it made by someone in your family?
I think you might be right, but I didn't realize that. I had forgotten when I put it out in the yard sale, so that was a bit
But
of a
I
brutal
still,
thing.
well, yes.
But again, it's
but
good.
also, Andy, look at me. I'm selling,
Yes.
I've come to the conclusion I have a few things of my parents. Now, there are things that I will never, ever get rid of and that will be passed along. But those are mostly like smaller things,
Mm-hmm.
jewelry and, I have my dad's watchdog, which is like this
Love it.
silly ceramic dog, but it's very meaningful to me. It was on his bureau for his whole life. But there are like pieces of furniture we still have that I'm like, it's not my style. In my mind, though, I'm like, someone will snatch this up. But the
Yeah.
truth is, it's kind of not anyone's style anymore.
Right.
I don't know. So to me, there's no point in hanging on to something, particularly, okay, you didn't even remember it was your grandfather's. That's not that
Yes.
important to
Totally,
hang on to.
Totally.
But that's just how I am. The things that I like to hang on to are pictures, obviously, jewelry, like precious things. And then recently up at the cabin, I busted out my parents' old crystal, like very fancy looking crystal
Yeah.
glassware.
Yeah.
So wine glasses, little coupe glasses that are so
Yeah.
cool. And that has been very fun to use up there.
Yeah.
But, it's not something I would buy today.
Right.
So-
totally. I took the remaining stuff that we didn't sell to
Goodwill.
something like that, Goodwill or Salvation Army, one of those. And when I rolled in there was another lady that came in right after me, and we're both chatting to the helper guy. And the helper guy starts telling her, like, oh, yeah, this lady just came in with a car filled with clothes. And I started helping her, removing them. And she said, oh, give me a second. And she started going through them. And he said she kept, like, I swear he did say 95%. Said
Whoa.
She
That
kept-
seems like an absurd. I'm just kidding.
she kept 95% of them. And he was bewildered. And then so this lady and me were like, are you kidding? He says, no.
Whoa.
It's like, you made it to the finish line. You got to the
Man,
good
oh
will.
God, that
And-
really, that breaks my heart.
yeah. And maybe I've been thinking about it since because it seems so crazy.
Maybe she bought one of those things that's like you buy
or maybe her family members got it together and she was going to take it in. But the
Still?
way he told the story, it was really like she was just changing her mind, and she changed her mind on 95% of it. It was so crazy. But I was like, you got to the destination.
Now, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Is this a case? Because of our family,
Mm-hmm.
I would say I am the first to say get rid of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's born of a couple of things. I mean, I think I just don't have the attachment to things.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you know this, but my parents died.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this all comes from, honestly, that situation. And also being like, double Virgo. I like things to be organized and clean.
Yeah.
I like to know where things are. There's something I really like about being able to like think that I could just put a stick on my back with a bandana and
and
go
just
on my way.
Yeah. And also, you can't take it with you.
You can't take it with you. Family and people. My home is where you and the kids are. Losing my parents, I think, really taught me like things do not matter. I saw with my own eyes, you can't take it with you. And Anna Marie and I had to go through all of their things.
Yeah.
And they were not pack rats. They had actually recently moved. And they had a very beautiful, lovely house that was, on the bigger side. And so, but still, it wasn't like a lifetime's worth of pack rat things.
Yeah.
It was so overwhelming to me.
Yeah.
And at the time I was in college, gonna move into a small little bungalow in West Hollywood. I didn't really have room for stuff.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had to then like let go of attachment to things in a big way. I think I did put a lot of stuff in storage, and that was a nightmare. Were you with me when we lived in New York and like I had to come back and get stuff from storage to move out to New York and pick the stuff to sell? And it was so...
I don't think
the overwhelm chased me through life.
Oh, yeah.
And now I'm like, I have zero attachment to things usually, unless it's something really special. I'm like, if it brings me joy, awesome. But if it doesn't and I can't see that it will, no worries.
Yeah.
You are more attached to things. Our son is very attached to things.
Yeah.
Our daughter's pretty chill and she likes to organize and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm wondering if that woman, it was a situation which has happened like for this yard sale. I went through our kids' rooms when they were at camp. I told them I was doing it. It's not like I was bamboozling them. I said, go into your rooms. Don't go into the garage. Don't go like tour.
Yes.
And live with it for a few days. And if there's anything that you miss, I will happily pull it back out for you.
Yeah.
Otis, there was one thing he didn't want us to sell, which I was shocked by.
Yeah.
I think I got really lucky because these two random stuffies, he was like, did you get rid of, Dreamy and blah, blah, blah. And I just hadn't. And it was just by luck of the draw.
Yeah.
But I was really proud of how they handled it. I suspect this woman was bringing a carload of things that her partner potentially or family
But I don't see
gathered.
a man would have been doing that job. It seemed like she probably did the job. And then she...
You're joking.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, no.
No, I hope it was that. Because the other thing's so sad. If she was the one that gathered all these clothes, then got to Goodwill, and then changed her mind about all of it, that's painful. That's so hard. I hope it's what you're talking about.
Well, there are a lot of people who have kind of like hoardery, pack rat.
What if this was like she had finally... cross this like
I know, that's
out
what
of
I was
hoarder
thinking.
thing
That's
and then
what
got pulled right back in.
But that's what I was
That's
thinking.
scary. That's sad. That's hard.
And what is, I understand, I think a lot of the hoarder behavior can come from lots of different like psychological situations things where your kind of connection to whatever, or if you didn't have a lot and there was, which sometimes I worry about with our kids because I just want to like get rid of everything to the degree that it might be bad where it's like, well, now what do we have?
Yeah. I'm at this place. So I recently did a big studio purge and sold like a bunch of gear on eBay and Reverb and stuff like that. But I saw there's a YouTuber I really like, a music gear guy, and he said, if I don't use it for a year, it's gone. And you know what? If you want it again someday, buy it again later. Because and a lot of this music gear holds value pretty well. So you almost end up like renting the stuff, right?
Yeah.
If I sell it for $300 less than I bought it, but I used it for 3 years,
Right.
cool, great.
Yes.
And then if I really miss it later, I can always go buy it. But that really resonated. Like if you haven't touched this thing in a year, get rid of it. Where it gets trickier is, I have a few acoustic guitars. That one you gave me for my birthday, and it's like my favorite thing ever.
Oh.
But I have another one that I got when I was 15. but I don't play it much. But it's hard for me to get rid of the one that I've had since I was 15.
Sure.
Because kind of a nice guitar.
Instruments,
It's
though, I
hard.
almost feel like it's different. You know, we sold my parents' piano, and we just didn't have room for it. I still like. It stings a little bit that we sold that because I also am like, the kids could have taken piano lessons. But it was the right call for us at this time because we don't have room.
Yeah.
Musical instruments, I'm like, that guitar you got at 15 could be Teddy's guitar. And, you know, they're different. I totally get that. But the attachment and connection to things is a very interesting and a very personal, it goes person by person kind of case. But I think that the picture painted of that woman getting to Goodwill and then going through each item and going, wait, no, what was I thinking? For everything.
And it was also so novel to the guy that works at Goodwill that he was telling people about it.
Right. Wow.
Which makes you think that most people do get the stuff out of their car once they get to the parking lot.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is like it's crazy.
That was the thing. That was one of the things I told Otis. Look, if you haven't played with it in a year, and I hope this was okay that I said this, but I was like, and also considering the 45 times this year that you said, I'm bored, what should I do?
Oh, yeah.
And this thing was sitting there that you haven't played with.
Yeah, totally.
I feel okay
I think it's
selling
great.
it.
It's great.
And they had a blast. I'm really proud of how they handled everything.
There was one moment where I saw a kid that he knew from the block buy something that I was thinking, ooh, that's got to be painful. You know, it's like
What was it?
the Beyblade Stadium and Beyblades.
Oh.
And they're walking away, two kids like about to go up the time of their lives with this thing they just scored. And I could just be like, oh, that one probably hurts.
But he did get to buy a couple new things. I mean, that's the fun thing.
Yeah.
Bring in the new.
All right.
All right.
On that note,
Good night.
good night.
Shh.